Rituals at home. If you are alone at home and wish to carry out a spiritual ritual, lock the doors, pick up the phone, and close the curtains. You must have total privacy, and we must avoid being interrupted during the ritual. If there are more inhabitants in the house, ask them not to interrupt you, as you need privacy for a while. If this does not work, try to do the rituals at night or very early in the morning when they are asleep. Next, we will perform a physical cleaning, using a regular broom to sweep the area where the ritual will take place. After cleaning, we will purify the room with one of the oldest tools of the witches, the magic broom. The broom's bristles don't need to touch the ground. However, you must do it with energy, visualizing how the negative energies of the diseases and psychic disorders are swept and cleaned by the broom. You can also imagine how sparks or violet rays come out of the broom, which pulverizes the negativity. Another way of doing purification is by spreading salt, alone or mixed with a herb or resin powder, such as thyme, rosemary, olives, copal, or sage. Salt water is also used. The action of spreading salt and grass releases the energies that reside in these mixtures, which are directed and magnified by the purpose of ritual and visualization, thereby driving away disturbing points. You could also burn an herb with purifying or cleansing qualities. For example, myrrh, olive, sage, thyme, or rosemary. Herbs can be used alone or in combination. Fumigate the ritual space with smoke and visualize it by driving away negativity. Outdoor rituals require a minimum of cleanliness. Most of the natural environment is much less physically contaminated than our homes and other buildings. A slight sweep with the magic broom is enough, in this case to remove the fallen leaves and pebbles in addition to the negativity. Supported with your visualization. By Richard Pinbow. Quartz crystal tips. The essential tip is that quartz crystal should never be used for cancer, liver problems, or severe blood-related problems. Quartz crystals can multiply cells rapidly, which is why they're used in watches, computers, and machinery. Power crystal. The power of this particular crystal should not be underestimated, and therefore, it should be used with care. However, it is the most important crystal for healers, as it can be used almost anywhere on the body. It is, however, better to avoid male crystals. These have great clarity in specific areas of the body, such as near the head. Male crystals should never be placed in a room for sleeping. Small pieces of quartz can be placed in a glass of water to cleanse and re-energize both the water and the drinker. Rutilated quartz is particularly beneficial when used at night, as it clears the throat and sinus areas during sleep. Again, those who have cancer or blood-related illness should not use this quartz. Within the healing room, energies should be balanced with large pieces of rose quartz, amethyst, and quartz crystal. You should be guided as to where they are placed. Amethyst is the best crystal to use, as it's a natural vacuum for negative energies. When healing people with ME and those who are retaining anger, the amethyst soaks up such negativity like a sponge. In particular, healers working on patients with ME and those undergoing chemotherapy can feel quite sick themselves during the withdrawal of negative energies unless their solar plexus area is protected. In these cases, a large amethyst, I use a large half geode, can be placed at fair proximity to the healer as protection. The amethyst will need cleansing in sea salt water several times before being used again. Sea salt is crystalline in structure and draws energies to itself. The amethyst should be checked by dowsing if you have any doubt. Apart from the apparent healing room, it's good practice to occasionally cleanse every room in the house, particularly the bedroom. This can be done using incense, opening a window, and occasionally placing a large amethyst cluster in the center of the bed. You are likely to be surprised by how much negative energy the amethyst soaks up. If sleeping away from home, in hotels, etc., this practice is even more critical. Before you even think of sleeping in that strange room, light some incense, making sure it is in a safe area, preferably away from smoke detectors. Having placed an amethyst cluster on the bed, you can leave the room for a couple of hours, knowing that when you return, the space should be rid of most of the negative energies of whoever last slept there. I always carry around a few small amethyst and sea salt clusters to that end. When I go to bed, I soak the crystals in their sea salt bath in the hand basin. You need to think deeply about the problems of sleeping in hotel accommodation. We all do it. We have little option, short of carrying a tent around. None of us has any idea who used that hotel room before. Each person carries their energy, thoughts, and deeds around with them, and like fingerprints, leave some of those thoughts and points behind. It would help if you realize that many individuals have dark thoughts, and you may well pick these up unconsciously, particularly when tired, like a magnet. They can cause a sleepless night and leave you feeling heavy and unhappy the following day. If you are near the sea or a river, you can cleanse the crystals in a natural environment. Make sure the water doesn't carry them away. When taking crystals with you, wrap them in natural fabrics like cotton, silk, or pure wool, as their energies are similar to those of humans. Sometimes they don't get along. Crystals are programmed to do their job, so it can be like putting a heart surgeon in with a farm worker. They would have little in common. Be prepared for room boys and airport staff to make some cryptic comments about the heavier-than-usual baggage. When I tell them the truth, they are full of stones. I'm never believed. Remember, the heavy bag requires an extra tip too. The altar. The altar is where we will place our tools and all the items we use during rituals and/or magical workings. There are two types of altars. The permanent altar. Very few people are fortunate enough to have a permanent altar in their homes, for several reasons. Space or the unfortunate intolerance of those living with them. The temporary altar. I refer to the temporary altar as the one that is set up every time we perform a ritual at home or outside, in the presence of nature, and taken down again when our work is finished. Even so, we must have a special place to store our tools, candles, figurines, etc., when we do not use them. The altar can be round to represent the goddess and spirituality, or it can also be square, representing the four elements. Location of the altar in the circle. The way to accommodate the tools, candles, and other items varies with each tradition, including the individual's location within the circle. In my case, I placed the altar in the middle of the circle, facing east. Why look east? Because the east is the sunrise. Why in the center of the circle? Because that way, I don't get in the form of walking around it to create the process and make the invocations, and don't stumble or step on the edge of the circle, or even get out of it. If you perform your rituals at home, you can use a table as an altar. If you, like me, perform your rituals in open spaces, you can create your altar directly on the floor. There is no problem. The altar distribution. As with the altar's location, there are various ways to accommodate the tools on the altar. Some accommodate their tools according to the elements. Others, like me, place the tools in sections. The goddess section, the god section, and another for both. So if we take these symbolic sections as a reference, the tools would be arranged in this way. In the case of representing the god and the goddess, candles or figurines can be used. Paintings can also be displayed. I use candles in the form of the sun and the moon for God and the goddess, respectively. There are many variations of altar layout, and they vary from practitioner to practitioner. Altar decoration. As for the decoration of the altar, some Wiccans prefer to use colored tablecloths in accordance with the celebration or the intended magical work. I change the altar's decoration according to the changing seasons. The only warning I will bring to your attention is, always be aware of the candle flame and the possibility of fire and spilt wax. By James Oswald.